So let's say we're looking at a function and we have restricted to a closed interval. We've restricted to a, b, where we're including a and including b. And we've got a continuous function, so we've got no asymptotes and can't extend infinitely high or infinitely low. So the question is, where could our absolute max and min be located? Because to be clear, from the previous video, we know that we have an absolute max and min. So now the question is, where could it be? Well, let's take a look at this example here. We've got a point at f of a, we've got a point at f of b, we're on the closed interval, we've got a continuous function, hence we've got an absolute max and an absolute min. The absolute max happens to be at a local local max, and the absolute min happens to be at an endpoint. What about this guy here? We've got a point at f of a, we've got a point at f of b, we're on the closed interval, we've got a continuous function, one continuous path all the way across, no asymptotes, can't extend infinitely high, infinitely low, hence we have an absolute max and an absolute min. In fact, you can see it based on the picture. The absolute max here is up here at a local max, and the absolute min is down here at a local min. Okay. It's possible then, we can say, where could the max or min be located? It's possible that it could be at a local max or min. That is absolutely clear. Oh gosh, that's a horrible pun. At a local max or min is possible because we have seen the absolute max and the absolute min occurring where the function is locally high or locally low, where the function hits a peak or where the function hits a valley. At the peak, this function hits a local max. Anytime a function hits a peak, it's a local max. And this local max just happened to be the absolute max. Similar story here, function happened to hit a local max. That local max, that peak, also subsequently happened to be the highest function value achieved. So this is the absolute maximum. So be it. But the long story short is, you could have your absolute max where the function locally hit a maximum. But that's not the only case, right? Because we saw here that an endpoint is another place where that could occur. And in fact, take a look at this function over here to the right. This function doesn't even have local maxes or minimums. This function never hits a peak and never hits a valley in the traditional sense. This function is going down the whole way. And as a result of it going down the whole way, the highest point was over here on the left where it started, and the lowest point is over here on the right where it ended. So we can see that you could hit a maximum absolutely at a local max, at minimum absolutely at a local min, but you could also hit your minimum or maximum at an endpoint. And then the question would remain, could you hit a minimum or maximum somewhere else? And my claim is no. Because if you are not at a local max or a local min, you are somewhere on the function where you're going up or down. The local max is where you transition from up to down, where you've instantaneously flattened out for that peak moment. And the local minimum is where you're neither going down nor going up, where you've instantaneously flattened out for that instant. So if you're somewhere that's not a local max or a min, you're either going uphill or you're going downhill. And here's the thing to think about. If you're going uphill, then you will not be at the highest point because there could be a higher point. In fact, there will be a higher point to your right. The only case where you would end up at a higher point of all would be if whenever you end at that endpoint, you were at your highest point. But you can't possibly be at your highest point between the local minimum and the endpoint, because if you're going uphill, you're going to go even further uphill on your way to the endpoint. Similarly here, between the local max and the endpoint, you couldn't possibly be at a minimum. You're going downhill, so go a little bit further to the right, which you can because you're not at an endpoint, you'd be even further down. Now maybe you hit a bottom point at the endpoint, but that's okay, right? Because you could be going downhill all the way into your endpoint, and that endpoint could be the absolute minimum, the absolute maximum if you happen to be going uphill into the endpoint. But the long story short is the only place where you could reach your absolute max or your absolute min is either at a local max, local min, or at an endpoint. These are the only possibilities.